Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we are talking about another movie. I know no one would have guessed. I said that last video, I'm pretty sure. It's kind of getting repetitive, but I watched Snow White with my relatives, and I'm here to talk about it. No other place I would rather talk about it other than with you guys. So let's just get right into the video. Why did I sound like that? I don't know what I'm doing. So this movie has had a lot of controversies before actually coming out due to the main actress and some statements she's made. But I kind of went into this movie, or at least I definitely wanted to, and I definitely think I accomplished that goal. Nothing against it, no like premeditated hate or anything, just with a brand new mind, something I might like, this interpretation of Snow White. And it was better than I thought. That's what I'm going to say. That does not mean it's good, but better than I thought. And I mean, that's a start. Disney has been on a downhill, I feel like, with everything they've been doing, Marvel, and just popping out sequels. And hopefully something like this will help change their minds, and especially the backlash that this movie has gotten. But I kind of want to just talk about all the good before I get into the bad, really. And there is some good that I kind of enjoyed that my sister might not have, because she is a fan of the original Snow White and doesn't really like or accept changes. I do. As a person, I love when interpretations take things in a different way. So like I said, she's a different person with different thoughts, and you might also be a person with different thoughts. So these are my thoughts. I just want to get that out of the way before going into the bad. But the good always becomes before the bad. Or, well, I guess not, but in this thing, this video, it is going to become, or I can't even speak today, come before the bad. But the best thing about this is I kind of do like the leadership that Snow White takes. It is kind of loud. I know it kind of changes the tone of Snow White from the original. I don't really have a connection with the original, so it doesn't bother me as much. I also think the Rachel Zegler did pretty good. She is a very good actress. Even though like you may have conflicts with her, you can't really just belittle her talent. She's also an amazing singer, and this is basically just kind of a showcase for her. Now, not all of the songs hit, but mostly the ones she sings are definitely like the best songs throughout the movie. They do have some new songs in here while adding a couple from the original. Like I said, I'm not really much of a huge fan of the original, so I can't really pinpoint what songs come from where. I just definitely know I recognize like only one song from this movie from the original, to be honest. I wish I was a bigger fan. I also didn't really have a problem with the love interest and it not being a prince, and he's kind of a bandit. It didn't really bother me because like they still had the true love's kiss plot line in there and everything, so that was appreciated. Even though he wasn't a prince, Snow White ended up being like the queen anyways, and I didn't hate that, to be honest. I kind of like the actor of the prince, and he's also a very good actor, and also was very good at singing, something I wish I was. Nah, I know my jealousy is showing. No, I can't hate on all of this movie because I mean it got it kept me entertained for somewhat, or for most of it at least. Gal Gadot, I've heard a lot of bad things like going into this movie about her acting, and while watching this movie I didn't really see that. Yeah, she kind of did a couple weird scenes that was kind of out of place, but overall I think she did fine. And I feel like people's reaction to that was just kind of overwhelmed a little bit, like overrated. I don't even know if that word kind of fits in this situation, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was due to people's reactions. So I kind of had no problem with it due to all this negativity, because they're acting like, oh, she's one of the worst actresses in the movie and everything. I just didn't find that to be true, really. There were a couple scenes I kind of didn't like with her character, but that's just writing. And I mean, there is a director, so if the director didn't like Gal Gadot's style or the way she was portraying her character, he could have stepped in and made her doing something else. But obviously, he might have liked what she was doing, or just didn't bother. But I'm pretty sure the director would have done something if it truly messed up the story he was trying to portray. Now, I kind of want to talk about the dwarves for a little bit, because there is one good thing about them, even though there is a way more bad, I would definitely say, is that there is kind of an emotional scene or tie to them, especially with Dopey and Snow White, when she teaches Dopey to whistle and everything, and kind of builds courage inside of them to make the other dwarves listen to them. And I feel like that was sweet, and especially when they added Dopey talking at the end, it kind of just, it is a great result in the courage that Snow White has gave Dopey, and basically what she can do and how she can help people kind of get to their full potential and become the person that they want to be. So very enjoyable about that, dwarves. But to be honest, those were kind of the main things that I liked about the movie. So let's get into more of the bad, because unfortunately, like I said, because it's better than I thought, that does not mean it's a good movie. So let's jump into the bad things I didn't really like. So let's start it out. The dwarves look horrible. I mean, compared to humans, I mean, they just don't look anything alike. Their noses are humongous. Their faces are just disgusting to look at, to be honest. I mean, the animals are cute, so why don't you make the dwarves a little more good to look at? You know, this is a kids movie, and I doubt the kids care, but as a person in my 20s, I kind of just looked at the dwarves and I was like, what are they doing? Especially because they still had the thieves in here, and when we were hearing about them changing the story for Snow White, at first we thought it was just going to be like 7 thieves that kind of took place of the dwarves, but they got backlash, and I feel like they kind of added the dwarves but still wanted to keep those thieves in, because that's where Jonathan, the main love interest, obviously comes from, which is not a prince and is just a bandit in this movie, like I've explained before. But they're just disgusting, and they don't really have anything to do in this movie. Like I told you about that one scene that Snow White has with them, and then she goes on, and the plot just continues, kind of skips over them. They're also there for a little bit to help, like, Jonathan, but I feel we should have saw more of them and dove more into their relationships, because the only ones that are like main focus are Grumpy, Dopey, and Doc. Really, those are kind of the main focus, and you can notice Sleepy in the background, because obviously you can notice Sleepy. He's always just like he's dozing off. That's what he does. So they could have just added more, but they had so many characters because they wanted to keep the thieves in and keep the love interest that was not a prince in this movie. And they could have just done way better if there weren't as many characters. So many movies are just adding so much to the plot now. Everything just seems so convoluted and constructed, and then they just jam pack everything together, and it is just so confusing. Everything happens so fast, kind of without reason too. They kind of just skip over that part most of the time because they just have everything. They'll mess up plot lines. They'll have just big plot holes because they are too busy trying to get everything they can done in just one project. And that kind of just ruins it when there's so much. You can't really finish a good story with everything. Or I mean, someone might be able to, but it's very, very unlikely that you can do that in a very good way without pissing some or a lot of people off. And I don't know how I feel about the ending, to be honest. Just to point out, because Snow White shows up with the whole town behind her back, and she convinces the guards to turn on the queen. And basically, when she looks back, the thieves are on top because they shot the blade out of her hand, and then the dwarves are stopping her from getting into the castle. And then 2 seconds later, she's into the castle, acting like nothing ever happened. Probably because when they first shot this movie, the dwarves were never there. So like I said, that's why the dwarves didn't get their own time really, because they weren't initially in the movie. But just kind of a continuity error, because the dwarves couldn't do anything. She just stormed right through them. But then obviously how it ends is she breaks the magic mirror, because basically says that Snow White is beautiful from within, which is way better than just having the appearances. And then she breaks the magic mirror and then is taken by the mirror. The mirror basically kills her. I don't really know. And then Snow White basically is now queen and is in control of her village or whatever. So that's kind of the end, and I don't know, it kind of just ended abruptly. Obviously, because the original ended with the big kiss, and that restored everything. So they just had to add Snow White fight the queen kind of, and get everybody to help her. Everything's kind of made a big fight blockbuster nowadays. So nothing new, kind of expected it. Let's just get to my rating, because I talked about the bad. I mean, just the dwarves, the plot, the too many plot lines that don't really make sense, and then the ending is just kind of abruptly, because they had to add something there to continue the story and add upon it. Alright, for me personally, I would give it a 4.2 out of 10. Wasn't the worst, but it definitely wasn't the best. It's just why, to be honest, these remakes, I guess to get a new audience, a new batch of little girls to like Snow White, maybe. But for people, fans of the original, they just kind of find it disgraceful and distasteful, just because you try to do it, but then you change so much that it's just nothing like the original and doesn't have the same meaning to it. And obviously that will piss some people off. I get what you're trying to do, but they just haven't been able to really crack the code, and especially with the live action remakes, most of them are really just downright trash. So not good. I don't really recommend it, but I mean, if you have a family, it could be a good day out, especially if you have a daughter that you want to take her to. Sorry. But that's all I gotta say for Snow White. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up and tell me your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like my content overall, please subscribe, and until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.